We're back with Rick Ramsey, who is running for the United States Bowling Congress Board of Directors. We hope you enjoyed the video that we did last week. And we've got some other interesting topics and questions to address in this episode. What kind of feedback did you get from our video last week?
Well, Scott, we've had some pretty good feedback from the video and in the different places that it was picked up. A lot of people that we know around the country are talking to their local association representatives, and they're trying to suggest. And one thing that we found is there's fewer and fewer local associations that are actually going to be attending the convention. I can't find out exactly how many or who the voting delegates are. USBC won't release that information, nor will they release the information about any other candidates who might be running from the floor. I thought that was very interesting when I asked who else was running from the floor, and they said, well, we can't release that until the convention. That's not a very open way of doing things. The four candidates that they've selected are certainly out there and being exposed to everyone in the bowling community, but yet they're not doing that for anyone else. And again, they won't even disclose who is running from the floor. And the deadline is passed, so anyone that's running from the floor would have had to already have turned in their information. It's just, we continue to see different things that are not really open to the membership. And one of the things that I advocate for is openness to the membership and earn the membership's respect and hopefully grow the bowling world through that, and not just a certain segment of the bowling industry, but to grow the whole bowling industry.
We asked for your questions, and we got a few, including a couple that were directed to me through my email. We appreciate that. So the first question I have is about the USBC tournament itself. I thought that would be a good one to open up with, but since we're in the town of the USBC tournament, you are the director of the BTM. See the little logo there,
Yep,
folks?
yep.
Now, if you're bowling the USBC Open, please come over to the Gold Coast where we're filming this and bowl Rick's tournament. It's great. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But the question from this gentleman in Iowa was, he thinks the conditions are too tough. He says, if you had this in Des Moines, says you wouldn't get any of the local bowlers. He said, make the conditions easier. Your response to him about the conditions that are bowled by the membership in the annual USBC Open?
Well, there's different schools of thought, but there was a time when the conditions were much more difficult than they are today. For one reason is that they did not re-oil the lanes between every squad, so you didn't have fresh. You might bowl all day and really have a dry lane condition late at night. And at one time they had two team squads at night, one about 8 and one about 10:30. The guys on that 10:30 squad were bowling on whatever was left over. Now, certainly 20 years ago, when that was the case, the balls weren't quite as strong as they are today. They didn't chew up the lane condition like they do today, so it wasn't as affected as what it is in today's environment with the high-powered balls that everybody has, where you just get a hook out of a box, so to speak. So, but I frankly think that there needs to be more than one condition. I think that the players in the upper echelon, the upper level, the guys that really are sport bowlers, they should bowl on a challenging lane condition just like the PBA. Then I think the other two should either be one condition or maybe even two conditions, and it can be done. Some people say, well, you can't do that, but with the equipment that we have today and the number of lanes that they have to operate with, they can do that. They can separate the better bowlers from the middle, and then the lower level also. Any of those other two levels can be on pairs of lanes by themselves. They don't have to be crossing with the guys that are here to win money and to win an eagle. There's some people that want to win an eagle. I don't think an eagle should be given to those bottom two classes. I think that the eagle should be reserved for the best of the best. And so as far as the lane condition, I certainly believe it should be disclosed. I think that should be done at home so that a person can have an opportunity to at least see it. Whether it helps them or not, it'll at least give them an opportunity to talk to their local pro shop, to their local pros, their local teachers, the coaches and stuff, and they can learn some more about the lane conditions. And that's certainly, we need to teach bowlers rather than hide stuff from bowlers.
And my suggestion would be to the gentleman that wrote me from Iowa, you have plenty of great coaches in Iowa. Look up on bowl.com for USBC certified coaches. At one time, I was a silver level coach, and that's the reason why I asked the first question, was to get to this. And you talked about that coaching. What do you think USBC needs to do to enhance the coaching program? Because there's some saying they're not doing enough, or the program isn't reaching bowlers to get them into lessons. We do know that when somebody gets coached well, they improve.
Well, just to use Las Vegas as an example, there are several people in Las Vegas that are coaches. Now, they may not be USBC certified coaches, but there's a lot of coaches in Las Vegas that give lessons. Are they qualified to give lessons? I don't know. I'm not going to go out on that limb, but they certainly have some abilities. They have the desire, or they wouldn't be doing it in the first place. I know USBC has a good coaching program. I don't know all of the ins and outs about the coaching program. There are certainly fewer certified coaches than what there should be when you consider the number of bowlers around the country. I think that needs to be a partnership with the BPAA, the people that own the playing fields. They're the ones that can be more instrumental in the coaching side of it. Again, here in Las Vegas, I don't know of a bowling center out here that doesn't work with coaches and allow them to come in and teach, certainly in the off hours when there's not Saturday night, but Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon or whenever there's slow traffic, and they try to work with those coaches. So I think it's just something that needs to continue to be done. Certainly Kegel and those folks in Florida have done a tremendous job with the education of the sport, and they're the masters of lane conditions and of coaching. They've got great coaches down there to go along with the people that know how to work with lane conditions and can pretty well set up a lane condition to do whatever you want it to do.
I know there are plenty of, Rick's right, there are plenty of great coaches here in Las Vegas. One of them, Bill Hall, who for years was on the PBA tour, one of the best. I'll use Bill if I ever come out of retirement. But there are great coaches in every market in this country. Now we're going to go to a question from a journalist, Jeff Riggles of 11thframe.com, who a year ago on April 6th wrote a very interesting article. He got a lot of response, and that was about the executive director, Chad Murphy. So Jeff poses this question: your thoughts about Chad Murphy if you were elected to the USBC Board of Directors?
Well, as I've stated before, the first thing I want to do is go in and learn. I'm not going to go in with an idea of just blow the place up and start over, but I want to learn how decisions are made, why they're made, and work within my authority or my scope of being on the Board of Directors. Jeff is an interesting individual, to say the least. Jeff and I are good friends. We don't agree on a lot of stuff. We communicate back and forth quite a bit. Chad Murphy is an interesting guy. I don't know how to say, I go back a long way with Chad. Chad, I felt, and his family have been good friends of ours for a long time. Chad doesn't come up and hug me today like he does my wife, but that's okay. We do have some differences. I don't think that his management style is the way it should be. If everything we've heard is correct, and I have to think it is, because not just Jeff Riggles, but insiders at the USBC bowling headquarters have also expressed some concerns. The tournament management at the USBC Open Championships, or let's say tournament staff, not management, but they're all. It appears that they work in kind of a a frightened type atmosphere occasionally. I mean, they're a little bit concerned about saying anything, and certainly they act a lot different when Chad's in town than when he's out of town. So it's just something that I want to learn before I make a commitment of saying, well, gee, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to get Chad's head. I'm not going to do that, again, because I've known a lot of his family. I respect them. I don't know if Chad had the background or the experience to go in and run the USBC, and I know some of the things he's done. He's done them because he wasn't allowed to do them at other places where he'd worked, and so he's had, like everybody has some sort of an agenda. Chad has had some agendas, and whether they're going to continue to be successful or not, I don't know. Junior Gold has been successful. I don't know if at the same time it's hurt the overall junior program. I heard from a gentleman that hosted a large junior tournament this weekend that his father of a 14-year-old came over and was complaining about the lane condition. Here we go about the lane condition. Said his son had none of the 12 balls that his son brought into the bowling center he could strike with. Well, you know, if you can't, first of all, you shouldn't have 12 bowling balls to bring into a bowling center. That's ridiculous. And there's no reason for a kid 14 years old to have 12 bowling balls. I don't care if they're given to him. It's ridiculous, because you don't need that type of an arsenal, and it can't be an arsenal if there's 12 of them. If there's 4,
gets back to coaching master one first.
Absolutely, it gets back to coaching, and as the person that was running this tournament said, he couldn't say anything to the father. He just ended up walking away rather than saying what he would like to. He would like to have told the father, teach your son how to spare, and his game will improve significantly, because the kid had a big strike ball, but he didn't have a clue how to pick up a spare.
So I'll lead into this question for me about it. Now it gets down to the process. That's one of the complaints, is that the process of the USBC is heavy-handed from the top down. Now, for years you were a staff member of the Professional Women's Bowling Association. Have you ever had the time to volunteer for USBC at the local association level? And if not, was it because you were on the PWBA? And if so, what from the PWBA can you bring as a USBC board member that's an asset to members?
Well, I think that's a twofold question there. One of them is I haven't necessarily been that active in the local association, because when I was in the banking industry for over 20 years, I traveled significantly and I couldn't get involved in a whole lot of things. I was involved in the junior program when my kids were in the junior program in Texas, and they participated in all the Grand Prix tournament, scholarship tournaments that they had in Texas. The Grand Prix program was a great program, and I see no reason for them to have caused the Grand Prix program to go away in several states when USBC wanted all the money to be put in the SMART program if it was going to be USBC certified. Again, I have no idea how the SMART program operates today. Hopefully I'll be able to learn. Again, this is going to be an education for me, particularly the first several months, and hopefully they'll be cooperative enough to allow me to learn the ins and outs of the USBC.
I can tell you SMART program is really well run, and I say that because my good friend from St. Louis, Steve Morley, has been on the SMART board for now a decade, maybe a little bit more. You can always pick it up and call him at University of Missouri St. Louis, where he's a professor of economics, and then you two can talk about banking. That'd be kind of interesting.
Right. But the ladies, your question about the ladies tour, one thing that John Summer and John Falzone gave me the opportunity for those 97 tournaments, I guess we did in 5 years. I was involved in the not only the day-to-day operation, but I was involved in site selections, hotel and the travel side of it. We did just about everything there was to do on the tour side. I did, as soon as they announced that USBC was starting a women's tour, my wife and I volunteered to go in and help with that program. We didn't want any salary or anything. We had asked for absolutely nothing from compensation other than just to pay our expenses. And we travel on the skinny side. We're not high rollers like some people are that travel, and we learned that even before the LPBT/PWBA days. But we tried to help the ladies, and we tried to schedule tournaments where they were close to each other and work with them so that it would work into their schedules. They can't be out a lot of money traveling from across the country. So I think that there's a lot of things we could do there. I was certainly disappointed when Chad communicated with me that I would actually, to put it bluntly, what he said was I would never have a job within the USBC. And that's what he said to me. That kind of relates to what Riggles. And when you talk about Riggles in his 11th frame, he does a great job getting publicity out on all bowling events. He's not prejudiced, and he's a Storm staffer, but he'll write stories about other staffers and stuff. He doesn't just make infomercials for Storm, and he does a great job. USBC should embrace Jeff Riggles instead of trying to run him out of the game, so to speak. They don't want him around, as has been evident the last several months, when he can't get information from them. They won't send him informational events.
Which is a futile effort since he's a USBC Hall of Fame member and has so many contacts. That's just so bizarre. You mentioned talking about the PWBA in what you did. Basically, you got down into services for the members who bowl tournaments, and USBC offers services. This is going to be the last question, but it is one that was brought up to me that they wanted directed to you, and it's something that has been a little controversial lately, and that is Bowl TV being a paid subscription service to whereas before it was free. Now, the argument that the person who wrote the question in is, why shouldn't it still be free for those of us who pay USBC dues every year? What are your thoughts about Bowl TV getting into a subscription service in relation to the dues a member pays?
Well, it hasn't been free. The cost has been defrayed by the revenue that the USBC has generated, which the majority of the revenue is dues. So it hasn't been free. The people doing it are staff members anyway. It's not like it's not like they're being pulled away from something else that's suffering so they could go cover these events. They're doing much less coverage of events today than in the past when they live streamed the USBC Open Championships. So I don't think that, and particularly over such a quick notice like this, you should never just change something arbitrarily overnight. And what did they give, 2 weeks notice maybe? I don't know. But it was very short notice. How many people have subscribed? I don't know. There are, and that's a good number that should be disclosed. How many people have actually subscribed to it? But you look at what's happened in the dynamics of the live streaming and stuff. Well, here you've got Flow Bowling. You've got great contracts with some regular TV networks. The positive thing is there seems to be some interest from potential sponsors to get, and platforms available to get bowling to reach the masses, and I think that's good. But just to answer, the bottom line of your question is no. I don't think that they should charge for it at this particular time. I think you look at some of the broadcasts they've had before, and you've got 200 or 300 people that are looking at it. Now they'll throw some numbers out about we had 50 million hits or something like that. Those are bogus numbers. Those are not. That's not true numbers. But that's a marketing side of it that people use to try to attract potential sponsors. If you'll notice, most of them all have advertisements on there. Somebody's paying a dime for those advertisements, or a little bit, and they saw it as a. I don't think the membership or the subscriptions was the driving force, but I think they saw another platform that could generate revenue from other sources, from the advertising side.
My issue with it is this. The only sponsors that I see from USBC at the tournaments, online, with digital media, using video, is that all the sponsors are bowling related. They're ball companies, Storm, Ebonite. I don't see any outside sponsorship. And that's just a very poor sales effort.
Well,
I'm speaking as a professional myself.
Well,
Because that's a really poor sales effort. 2 years ago, when I was a USBC staffer, I outlined something to a tournament director, how they could generate revenue through marketing sponsorship, and it was ignored. It was ignored. I'm sorry, Arlington, Texas, but if you have a revenue problem, it's because you don't listen to seasoned professionals like myself and others.
Well, we're looking back 20 years when Strike 10 came about. Strike 10 was supposed to be the marketing arm for bowling. How long did that last? As far as Strike 10 being the marketing arm for bowling, it didn't last long. And now they each have different entities that they're working with to try to find some sponsorship. Probably the PBA has done as good a job of that as anyone, and I have no idea who their marketing agency is today. But I think that the concept of Strike 10 20 years ago was a great idea. Where Strike 10's gone and what it's evolved into through the BPAA, that's a different story for another day. But I think certainly even the Bowlemore deal the other day. A lot of people say, well, that's a bad deal because Bowlemore just got a 2-hour infomercial. Well, to me, that was a great exposure for bowling. Should Bowlemore spend $1 million on infomercials for 3 infomercials throughout the year? I have no idea why Tom Shannon did that. We just saw this last week where a district manager at Bowlemore in Southern Cal has done away with all the junior programs in the 6 or 8 bowling centers that he has something to do with. Wait a minute, where are they missing out? How can they try to promote league bowling on one side and then do away with the junior bowling programs in a strong market? Southern California's had strong junior programs for years.
But that seems to me that's a BPAA issue and not a USBC issue.
Well, it should. There's where they all need to work together. But it is a USBC issue because that's where your future league bowlers come from, or your league bowlers and your memberships are from the junior programs primarily. So, everybody needs to work hand in hand. BPAA at one time and the bowling centers were the revenue collectors for the USBC. You go down and sign up for a league, and they're just going to include that membership in. Today, you're seeing more and more non-sanctioned leagues, and the bowling centers have taken the approach today, not all of them, but certainly several of them have taken the approach that why should we push for sanctioned leagues? We just want bowlers to fill the lanes and generate revenue for us.
And they could actually do that today because they're doing it right now with these habit ball leagues. They know that cost.
Absolutely.
Weekly league fee. We're going to wrap this up, but hey, USBC, you need a experienced advertising person to help you out. You contact my friend Tom Reeve in Chicago. You know his name. Tom Reeve was with Wintercom. Of course, they were the advertising marketing agency of record for the PBA about 10, 12 years ago. Tom's been a longtime friend. He's one of the best advertising execs in the business. He knows how to bring things together. Just my $1.27 because 2 cents only buys you fumes at the pump.
That's true. That's right.
We need to get this message out before we close. In order for Rick to be on the USBC board, it's two processes. One, you watching this have to get this video in front of your local USBC association and the delegates who are going to be in Las Vegas to be voting on issues at the annual convention. You have to do that. You have to take this video. You have to get it to your local association, especially those delegates that will be here. And then you need to do a sales effort on them to nominate Rick and to vote when that vote comes up. Should we put him on the ballot? And you have to tell them, put him on the ballot. What's the harm in that? I mean, that's just American democracy at its best. And the second thing you have to do is you have to sell your local delegate why they need to vote for Rick over other people. That's a second issue, and that's something that you'll have to do on your own with the delegates. Sure. But first thing we need to do, we need to get folks at home to be more active in the local association, and that's a tough thing because
it is. It's difficult.
Because I was a volunteer for my local association in St. Louis, and what turned me off was I'd go to every meeting and I'd hear USBC tells us to do this, USBC tells us to do that, and after a while, I just, as a very independent person, and that's why you and I are good, we're so independent. I finally spoke up one day and I said, USBC can stick it. You know, we're not stupid idiots down here. My local association, Steve Morley, you know, he's a PhD and he's on the smart board, but sometimes USBC just force feeds her, and the problem at the local level is that they keep saying USBC tells us to do it. Sometimes local associations need to blow back and say, hey, you know what? So,
well, I think, you know, my idea is working together we can make it better.
Sure.
And we can make bowling, not necessarily make bowling great again. I'm not sure how you're ever going to do that. But
Donald Trump might say that.
Maybe Donald Trump can solve all the problems of the world. But bowling, you know, there's so much more competition out there. Bowling centers are not their own competition. They're not their most competition. It comes from the other recreational opportunities, and that's the reason one of the family entertainment centers have been so successful, because they offer the entire entertainment concept of not only bowling but other sports and fun and games that people can have. But we do need, you know, there will be a Meet the Candidates meeting at the USBC convention, so you people that are going to be there, you can double check. I think it's from 10 to 12 on the second day of the convention, but the election itself will take place on the third day of the convention, that afternoon. In that afternoon session, I believe it starts about 1 or 1:30, and then it'll go throughout the afternoon. But I think the session that they have on Meet the Candidates will certainly give you an opportunity to meet the candidates. You can't miss me because I'm not going to shave my beard or anything. I just I play with that occasionally. A lot of guys know that I may even be bald-headed by then with the beard, but I have fun with it, and you know, life's too short not to have fun and do what you enjoy, and that's the reason my wife and I have been involved in the bowling industry for so long, because we enjoy it. This is our 17th year to run the BTM tournament, and we're looking forward to 3 more years. Hopefully Houston is a deal. Hopefully this summer there will be some disclosures on where the facility is going to be built down there. Heaven forbid a hurricane or something come through Houston the next year and they not get that facility built. But we heard Orlando was a done deal many years ago, and it never did come to pass. Thanks again.
Well, Rick stands out, and as a standout guy, that's why he should be on the USBC board. And the one thing you also need to do, bowl his BTM tournament here at a great family center, Gold Coast in Las Vegas. 4 games, and you have different types of.
Oh yeah, we have the 9-pin no taps. We even have because bowlers are getting older, we have a super duper senior division for guys that are 75 and over.
I saw that, and I saw one of them shot really nice.
We've had some good scores shot. The scores are always tough on the BTM, but we believe in the integrity of the sport, and that's what we've tried to do for many years. And certainly working with Kegel has allowed us to do that, and Storm and their brands believe in the sport of bowling, and together we've been able to create something that is good for everybody. And the 9-pin no tap is an event you can just have fun with.
From my personal standpoint, I cashed in USBC Open events because of this tournament. If I had not bowled BTM, who knows what my record of cashing is. I wasn't a world beater like Jeff Nichols winning Eagles, but I got checks, and one reason why I got checks was bowling his tournament. BTM, it's here at Gold Coast, and what's the website?
It's thebtmtournament.com. Just one long word, thebtmtournament.com, and you can go there and see the standings and the rules and the times and the calendar and everything.
Please share this video with your USBC local association and directly to those delegates you know who will be in Las Vegas. That's Rick Ramsey. I'm Scott Simon. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for viewing.